Our second topic coming out of the trade deadline, the Commanders-Saints trade. This was an interesting one. The Commanders wind up giving up quite a bit, giving up third and fourth round picks to go and get Marshon, Lattimore. There's a pick swap ish type thing with a 5 and a 6 in there too. This is a big swing for the Commanders. This is a sign of where the Saints are at. And I think if you go back 6 or 7 weeks, you would have seen these teams in reverse roles, which is what's so interesting about it, to me at least. I look at it like the Commanders, they knew where they were at. And Adam Peters and Dan Quinn, from January through August, really looked at it like this is going to take some time. We need to be patient in our rebuild. We don't need to take big swings yet. We're going to make smart, reasonable moves all the way through, which I think is how they've done it. On the flip side, you had a Saints team that had mortgaged so many contracts and was all in for right now, and had a coach that was on the hot seat. You had a general manager who has always been kind of a guy who wants to win here and now. Ownership that has invested a lot of cash and going cash over cap in so many different spots over the course of the last decade and a half. That was a team that you would say that's not the one that's going to offload a player. Yet here they are. The Saints fire Dennis Allen on Monday. They come back around. They trade Marshon Lattimore on Tuesday. And the Commanders show they're the team that's all in for right now. So how does it make sense for both of them? Well, on the Saints side, the way I view this, at some point they're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. And I think this could be the beginning of it. And if you are going to rip the Band-Aid off, and they've been chasing this problem for a lot of years, a lot of people look at it and say, well, the cap's fake. Well, no, they just haven't been allotted a full salary cap for some time now because those mortgage payments have come due every year. So they've had those on their ledger every year. And so if you do want to actually go through a full reset, you have to do things like this. You have to get rid of players who still have value to other teams, that are good players, that are making a lot of money. And so this could be the beginning of ripping the Band-Aid off and starting an actual rebuild. What that'll mean for the front office, we'll see. Darren Rizzi is very well respected, has a chance to win the job, but this certainly could be the beginning of something bigger for the Saints as they go forward. And amazing that we're here after they start 2-0, and they're the toast of the NFL. And Clint Kubiak looks like he's going to be a head coach, and they've lost 7 straight since, which is again why they are where they are. As for the Commanders, I don't think that this says like, oh yeah, we've just completely changed our approach. I think this is a way of creating a solution to what was an issue for them. And, as much as everything's gone well for them over the course of the last 2 months, doesn't erase the fact that they have long-term questions at a lot of premium positions. Who's going to play receiver outside of Terry McLaurin's a question. Who's the long-term left tackle going to be? Could be Brandon Coleman. We'll see. Who they got on day 2 of the draft. Out of TCU, but I don't know that I'd feel like completely comfortable that he's the long-term solution there. So they should be in the tackle market this offseason, whether it's looking for a right tackle or a left tackle, a long-term one. The edge rusher issue, that's an issue that's still there. And that's the fallout of having traded Montez Sweat and Chase Young last year. And then a corner, swinging and missing on Emmanuel Forbes left them with a hole there. So you look at that: tackle, corner, receiver, edge rusher, with all those things being issues. How do you address them? Well, it's tough to address all of them in one offseason. And, for them to look at it and say, oh yeah, we'll get to all of that, in March and April of 2025, I think is unrealistic. So this gives them a creative way to start to fix one of those positions with a guy who's under contract through 2026. And yes, it looks like an all-in move, but that 3rd round pick they got is a spare 3rd round pick. It's the pick that it's their slotted, 3rd round pick. They still have the 3rd round pick that they got in the Jahan Dotson deal. So they still have those resources in the first 2 days of the draft to work with. And, Lattimore is still young enough at 28 years old where he could be a solution for you at that position for the next 3 or 4 years. And he could free you up to address tackle or edge rusher in the draft rather than having to look at it and say, well, we have to address all of these somehow. So how are we going to do it? So I think from that perspective, it was a smart move for the Commanders, in a way, like serving the here and the now, and then, also serving the future to some degree. That's why I think Lattimore provided, what was a unique opportunity there, where this wasn't an aging player where you're just saying, yeah, here's our Band-Aid for now, let's go win it. It's, yes, this helps us in the here and the now. This gives a jolt to our locker room, sends a good message to all those guys that we are in for them right now, but also serves the future.